Okay, friends, it's time. Time to get Frosty for real, because the Frosty Planet Pack just released today, and at least to the day of recording this, so you're probably watching this the day after, because I am not fast enough to get a video out the same day. At least not at, like, a reasonable time. But anyway, so let's talk about the Frosty Planet Pack. I just did a run on this and spaced out. So this time I'm going to do a run that's just in the base game with only the Frosty Planet Pack enabled. But, like we'll typically do with any of our runs, we're going to spice it up a little bit. I think just a basic run will be a little bit too plain. I will probably wind up getting a little bit bored by the end of it because it's not silly enough. I'm just not enough pain is really the thing. So here's what we're going to do. First of all, I'm going to get every achievement, just in the base game, by the way. So every achievement that there is, we're going to get it. We're going to have to adjust a lot of our play to get some of these achievements, and the trio that's typically a problem is the Carnivore, Locavore, and Super Sustainable achievements. So those are going to be the ones that are kind of on our radar. The rest of it is stuff we'll eventually get to, or we will need to make sure that we don't, like, position ourselves out of it. So yeah, we will do that. And we will also be taking every single duplicant that is on offer to us until we are at 100 duplicants. We're just going to see if on the base game Asteroid, on the Frosty Planet Pack, if I am able to support 100 duplicants at a time and still complete the game. So this is going to be pretty silly. I don't know exactly where this is going to wind up, but let's get started. I'm not going to be playing on the highest difficulty, by the way, because I don't think that you can actually support 100 duplicants on the highest difficulty. I've never tried that before, but just from the math of like how much food would be required, that would basically be like having 200 duplicants because the food requirements. So I'm not going to try that. Not that wild yet, but maybe we'll try that someday. So let's start a new game. We're just going to go into survival, typical standard one. For story traits, I think that these are pretty reasonable to still have on. Maybe we will actually mess around with all these this time, because I haven't done a full run where we do all the story traits yet. Scramble DLCs, I'm just going to select the Frosty Planet Pack Asteroid, which I think is called Series. And I don't know why I can't go back. Okay, there we go. Yeah, so starting Asteroid Series, Frosty location with sub-zero temperatures, so we just played through this a little bit ago on a previous run that you can check out if you're interested, that we mixed with Space Out, but it was just the beta, so there's going to be stuff in here that's not necessarily in the beta. And then to select our seed, we're just going to go full random. I don't know what we're going to get, and I'm going to stop here in just a second. There, we got alternate pod location, metal rich, and small boulders. So that'll be pretty good, I think. We'll see what we get. For game settings, I think I'm going to leave all this stuff on default. I think I will disable care packages, though, just to add a little bit more spice onto this. What's durability? Why is this indestructible? I want this to be on default. I don't know why it defaulted to that. It defaulted to not default. So I think these settings are good. Let's go ahead and start. So yeah, I think when we take duplicants, we're just going to take the best one that's on offer, but I'm going to have to take it every single time. And I'll probably set up some automation to make sure that I go straight back to that to take a duplicant right when it's available and I don't have the pod just sitting there idle. So as soon as we have that available, I'll do that. Let's see, Freya. We have to definitely take Freya because she is a new duplicant in the Frosty Planet Pack. So we got one right here. This is going to be our miner, so there we go. Since she's good at that already. We do need a researcher and we need a builder, so let's select those. Not the best. See if we can get one that's more specialized. Yeah, this is fine. Okay. Hello, Stinky. Just don't say that to anybody in real life, unless that's actually their name, but I think they might not like that. Let's get a builder for the last person, which is pretty standard for the 3 opening duplicants that you get here. Is this good? No, not really. Let's see. We are also going to have a problem here that we noticed from the DLC, which is that the duplicants that spawn initially, if they don't have this frostproof trait, they will get very cold and they will not have a good time while they are in the very cold base. It does get to a point where if they get cold enough, they will start taking damage, but I don't think the initial area is going to be like that. I don't really want a night owl, honestly, as one of the first ones. That's not great. This is okay. +5 athletics right off the bat is really good. Okay, fine. That's good. Hello, Pay. Builder. There we go. And what are we going to call this one? I don't have any real clever names, so I'm just going to have to make one up on the spot. Why did it not delete this? I guess I have to have something. Let's see. The Horde of Cold Peeps. That's a terrible name, but yeah, that's what we're going with. Okay, so if this is your first time seeing this, basically the alert here is going to say that there's something at the planet's core. We could use this newfound technology to build a colony like no other, which means there's something down there that I have not seen before because it was not in the beta. So that's what we'll be aiming for. Probably not right off the bat because there's more things to do. But if we kind of take a look around, you'll typically spawn with like this wood heater, which we might need to take advantage of because the duplicants are not going to have coats. Freya doesn't care about the cold, but once I get coats up, then I don't really care that much about any of the heater stuff. We basically didn't use them at all in our spaced out run of this, so I might use them a bit. There is one coat already here. We'll see what kind of effects it has without using any coats, so I'll try to avoid this for the time being. This wood pile, again, I don't really know what the point of it is. It seems like it's just to store wood, and I guess look cool, but I don't see it doing much different than what's here, so at least you do get a big pile of wood to start off. Because you can build ladders and tiles and all kinds of stuff out of wood. But when we're first starting, one of the first things that we need to do is start digging out along the base. We are going to be looking around for things that are around us. We're going to start getting access to some of these food plants. We also need to note that when we're getting all of the achievements like we're going to be doing, let's take a look at our colony summary here. This one's interesting. We have not ever seen this one before. It says, discover the geothermal power plant buildings, reconnect the geothermal heat pump plumbing, pump liquids from the geothermal heat pump into the geo vents, and clear the blocked geo vents to maximize the geothermal power plant's efficiency. So we have to do this for one of the achievements. I've never seen this before. I don't know why it's the Mammoth poop as the logo. That's pretty interesting. But the more troublesome ones typically are going to be the carnivore, the locavore, and the super sustainable achievements, mostly because they don't let you do certain things or you have to have them done by a certain time. So the carnivore, we need to get 400 calories or 400,000 calories of critter meat before the 100th cycle. Locavore, we're not allowed to plant anything up until we eat that much food. And super sustainable, we're not allowed to build these types of things until we generate this much energy. We may just be able to get away with never generating from those things, but we'll see what is going to be demanded of this, because I don't know exactly how this is going to go. So that's the plan with the achievements. As we start up, the very first thing we should always do is create an outhouse, at least one, so that our duplicants have a place to use the facilities, so they don't make a mess everywhere. I think what I'll also typically want to do is find a place that we're going to preserve for the natural plants so that we can have a nature reserve. Typically having that closer to the middle is better. So maybe these? How many plants are here? No, that's only 3. Maybe I'll leave these ones. The other thing we need to worry about too is I can't replant these alveovera plants. These are basically plants that are going to be generating oxygen for us by way of producing oxalite and consuming carbon dioxide. They're kind of like an algae terrarium, except for they don't just put out oxygen, they put out oxalite, which will then put out oxygen. So that's going to be the plan. I'll preserve these 4 plants for our nature reserve going forward. This area can always be our area for researching so that we have access to it. You can see he does not like the coldness that's going on here. So he's having more stress, less stamina, less athletics. Same with Pay here. So I'm going to get up here and get up to this coat. I don't know how much I'm going to use the wood heater, but the good thing about the wood heater is that you can build your beds next to it, and it will keep your duplicants warm throughout the night, which will avoid them getting a big, like, stress debuff. So I'll build our way up here to get to this wood heater. We have our outhouses going. This is where we're going to be putting our beds, most likely, and this will kind of take shape as time goes on. The other thing that we're going to want to do is get down to this research portal. Which way do we want to go? I guess we'll go this way for now. And the research portal is going to be useful because it contains a few pieces of research that we will want right off the bat. If it's the same as the beta, then it's going to be like a wood heater, it'll be some wood tiles. I can't remember the third thing that's in here, but there were definitely 3 things. We'll see it in just a bit, but just want to get those things checked and out of the way as soon as we can. Looks like there's a neighboring, like, regular ice biome next to us, which is probably cold or warmer than the actual area we're in. Oh no, it's colder. Okay, cool. So there's an ice biome right next door, a bunch of sleet wheat, which we will want to take advantage of. It's one of the better foods in the game, especially if we're going for locavore. That'll be very handy. We can get a lot of sleet wheat out of that. I don't have a great way to keep track of when we're going to be needing a new print for duplicants. Here's our wood heater, by the way. The wood heater is going to be running. I will eventually encase all this in wood tiles, and we will make a room, or rather a bedroom, for our duplicants. Let me deconstruct this, and we will have one of the duplicants put a coat on so that they're not constantly freezing while they're walking around the map. Who's going to get it? Okay, when they go to the wood heater, they get a frost-resistant buff here, so they're immune to soggy feet. I think it also helps remove any negative buffs about the environment being cold. But what you're going to see if you have your duplicants sleeping, if they don't have the frost-resistant buff, I'm pretty sure that they will eventually get cold from sleeping in this biome. To be clear, this biome is extremely cold. If we take a look at the relative temperature on the middle end, so green is, let's see, let me get this in the right spot here. Green is like the average of this area, which is negative 24°C. It's very cold. You probably can't really tell if you're on the absolute temperature because everything just looks blue. But it is very cold in here, so we need to find ways to keep our duplicants warm and not have them be too stressed out. I also don't want them to ideally be running back and forth here all the time to go back to this wood heater. So I'm going to assign a coat to Stinky, I think, and we're going to need to start getting some bedrooms up here. Oh, let me disable my disinfecting. It's never really a good use of our time. The other thing that we can do is we can build stuff out of snow tiles, which means that something can only get so warmed up before that snow tile is going to melt. But it's one of the cheap ways to, like, build tiles early in this run. So we definitely need to do that. Now we have a room, so we can start getting... We can take a look at the range of this wood heater, by the way. We might as well actually build on both sides. Let me deconstruct this door and build this ladder in a little bit better spot. How far over does this go? Let's do this. Once we get down to this research portal, it will help us out by giving us some wood tiles so that we can insulate our room with wood tiles as well, which will make more sense having the wood heater inside here. How much heat does this produce, by the way? Does it say? Where can I see this? Yeah, it should say, I think. I guess it doesn't. Oh, here we go. 20k DTUs. That's a lot. Wow. Okay, so I don't want to run this for too long. Ideally, if I can get into coats early, that would be nice, because then we wouldn't really need the wood heater that much. Let's unlock the research from here. So, oh, someone's probably going to come from across the map to get it. That's much more efficient than Stinky just doing it, even though he's just standing right here. Alright, what do we got? Sniff the container. There we go. So we now have a wood heater, an ice liquefier, and a wood tile. That's the third thing, was the ice liquefier that I forgot. So this is basically a way for us to get access to research that we wouldn't normally have by this stage of the game, because we don't even have a research station yet. So because we have the wood heater, we could deconstruct this and move this to a better place, which we probably should. The other thought with this too, at least until we get coats up, is should we build multiple wood heaters? And I don't know the answer to that. I don't think so. mainly because I don't want to produce the extra carbon dioxide, and I don't want to produce the extra heat. But I do want to put this in wherever their bedrooms are. So let's start planning out where the bedrooms are going to be. We should also start planning out generally what the shape of our base is going to be. And I think I'm just going to have our like main transit area be right here. So I'm going to deconstruct this wood pile. Because it doesn't do anything. Like, it just holds wood. It's just mostly for the aesthetics as far as I can tell. So once we establish where our main like travel points are, then we can start working on understanding how everything else is going to be placed. I also want to take advantage of this printing pod and the research station. So if we want to put a research station down, let's go ahead and do that. I want to put it next to this pod so I get the initial buff from working next to the lighting. We deconstruct our food box because we don't really need that right now. Let's see, we have our wood tiles. Let me just finish up getting this done. I think the bedrooms can go right below. I'm just going to preserve these plants here that are going to be used for my nature reserve so that we can connect it over to this part of the base as well. And just have a nature reserve kind of sitting in the middle. This won't always be our science area, it'll just be that for right now. So that's going to be the plan here. Now that we have wood tiles, I think I'm just going to build the bedrooms right below this. So I'm going to make them out of wood tiles, just to help hold the heat from the wood heater in here. So I'm going to deconstruct that. And this will just need to be a little bedroom that we're going to create for our duplicants, and they'll sleep next to the wood heater to get that buff and also to stay warm while they're sleeping so that they're not unhappy. We also are going to need a manual generator, which there's no reason to put it here actually. Let me put it somewhere else. So if we have this, it's going to be a door, 1, 2, 3. I'm going to deconstruct this outhouse because we want like a main channel that's about 3 wide for all of our main travel throughout the base. So I want that to be here, which means that I'm going to need to deconstruct this eventually. I might as well just do it now. And I'll put the manual generator right next to my outhouses for the time being, and then we can just run some wire over to our research stations. So there we go. Let our duplicants get to work here. The locavore is going to be interesting because we're going to be taking duplicants kind of uncontrollably, and we won't be able to replant any of these alveoveras. So we're going to probably need to expand very quickly in order to get to some other oxygen source that isn't like an immediate electrolyzer. I don't want to start up an electrolyzer in here because I don't want to be in a position where we are overheating the inside of this base more than is necessary. And I say that mainly because a lot of the plants, like let's look at this plant. This plant can only survive between -55 and -14, and this is going to be a common source of food, both in the early game and probably for a little while, honestly, until we figure out what else is on our map. So we definitely need to try to keep the inner part of this cold. The whole asteroid is really cold, honestly, but I do like to ship all of my supplies to the center of the base, and that'll help keep it cold. Here you go. Now we're getting the unrested and cold bedroom debuffs. So stamina's down, immunity's down. Yeah, definitely not what we want if we can avoid it. So once we finish up the bedroom, that'll help out quite a bit. So, once we have this up... Oh, we also need a battery. Let's get a battery for this to store our power. And we're going to start on our research. Typically what I'll say is, unless you have a really specific thing that you're going for, just keep your research spinning and just go for all the blue researches at first. So I'll just start checking boxes and getting the blue researches done. It's not like we have a ton of morale needs right now because we have 4 duplicants that just started and they don't have many skills. Not to be insulting, Pei, I'm sure you have lots of skills, but they don't have anything that requires a lot higher morale, so I'm not going to worry about that too much. So, I will get the research started, I will build out the bedroom, and once that is done, I'll come back and we'll continue on with the run. I'm just going to edit out all the parts where things tend to slow down, just so that we kind of stay concentrated on the interesting parts of the run. So, I'll be back in just a second. Okay, it's time. We need to take another duplicant. Who do we want, and what do we need? The first thing we're going to need is somebody that can get into ranching pretty quickly, because if we're going to get our carnivore achievement, we need to start getting our ranches up and getting our meat production out as soon as possible. Got my eye on Ada so far. Nobody is really that great at ranching, so maybe I'll have somebody that's good at other stuff for the time being. Bad at digging, but good at building. Requires a light to sleep. Actually, you know what? You know what I wonder? Does this produce light? I guess a little bit. I don't know if it produces enough to fix that, but let's test this. It does produce a little bit. Let me take this duplicant that requires light, and let's see if that can double over as it. So, Joshua, you're going to be a rancher, despite really not having those skills. But this is more of a position-based draft than a take the best duplicant. So another thing I forgot to mention is let's make sure that all of our priorities are good for everybody. So I did assign priorities to everybody. So we want the builder to be building, we want the researcher to be researching, and we want Freya to be on digging because that's what she's good at. Here's our room with our beds, by the way, and let me make sure that we assign Joshua to one of the closer ones to this, and let's see if that's enough light for him to sleep. If not, then he's not going to have a great time until we do get lights up, but yeah. So that's going to be the plan, and it looks like the range of this wood heater can support about 4 beds. I don't know if you could make 2 levels of this and actually have everybody get those benefits. It doesn't really seem like it, but this is also fine. I'm also skipping over some of the parts where I talk about my general build style. I like to keep a sort of gritty pattern, only because it's easy to replace rooms and have them serve different purposes over time, rather than trying to cram everything together. I know a lot of people aren't super into that style, but it's very handy for me, so I like to use it. The other thing that we will need, let me look at the skills that we have. Once we get to ranching is when we're going to start really wanting to lean into getting our carnivore achievement. So we're going to need this before we start getting some of the other tech. But let's take a look at our research tree. So for the carnivore achievement, these incubators are going to be very useful so that we can start getting eggs produced as soon as possible and start growing the population of critters that we have. That's what I want to shoot for, but I also think that we need the other things that are going to be in support of that. So if we have a lot of duplicants with high levels of skill, they need morale support. Morale support. I guess it makes sense. So I might go with some other stuff in the time being. Let me see. Oh, what's this? Oxalite sconce. Stores a small chunk of oxalite which gradually releases oxygen into the environment. Why would I want that? This is a new thing that I haven't seen before, and I don't understand why I would want this. I guess it's so you can distribute your oxalite more easily. That's interesting. Let's try this out. Huh. I guess it's so you can distribute the oxalite around your base from your alveo vera plants. There's a new building that we haven't seen before. Now I'm just quickly scanning to see if there's anything else that catches my eye, but I don't see anything immediately, although I could just be missing it. Mercury light, we've seen that before. We talked about that a little bit in the beta. We will definitely be using that. Wood tiles we already have. Wood block for sculptures. Yeah, I don't see anything in particular. So, oxalite sconce. Interesting. We'll try those out. So we're going to get on top of that. My goal for right now is just to dig as hard as I can to figure out what's around me and what I can make use of. So I'm just going to be digging in every direction just to kind of get out on the map and figure out what we have and get access to a lot of this food. These mammoths are probably going to be our primary source of meat. So we will need them for their eggs because when they grow up into a sack of meat, they put out a lot, 22,000 calories per mammoth. So we really need to crank on getting those eggs going and getting that population raised as soon as possible. So if we can dig out and find as many of those as possible, that would be very helpful right now. And I'm going to leave all of the plants planted naturally as much as I can, just because those are going to be our source of food for a little while. And if we are growing effectively boundlessly, we're going to have a lot of mouths to feed by the time that we get up there, because we're taking every single duplicant when there's a print up until we have 100. So let's see, does he have enough? No. Okay, well, that's not great. I don't know how much he actually needs. Yeah, lack of light. There's definitely light here. I guess it's just not enough. So we're going to need to get into lights so that Joshua is not stressed out too much. Although, this isn't the worst. I mean, the stress levels are being dealt with pretty well because of their morale. So, I guess I'm not that worried about it. Again, the wood heater is semi-helpful. I guess it's also good to be in the center of the base, so my duplicants, when they want to go back here and get that buff, they can. But ultimately, I kind of view it as a time waster if we can ever get into the coats, because if you have coats, you don't necessarily need these wood heaters anymore. I want to get to these mammoths so that we can shear them, because you can shear them for reed fibers in order to make coats. We have a lot of things we need to research before then, so I'm just going to explore around for the time being, continue to expand. There's nothing too pressing that we need to do right now other than worry about getting our infrastructure up for our carnivore achievement. So I will start doing that, and if I see anything interesting along the way or something that's worth talking about, I will come back and tack on another part. Okay, something that I forgot to mention is, since we are going for every achievement, I'm going to keep track of when we do get these achievements. So the first one that we got is having at least one toilet in the colony and a bed for every duplicant. We got the bed and bath achievement, so yay! Achievement number 1. There you go. So we'll keep an eye on that progress and make sure that we get all of them. And we've got a lot to go. I'll mention the specific ones when we're going to be aiming for some of them, but a lot of these we'll just get by doing what we would normally do anyway, except for the restrictions that we have to follow for carnivore, locavore, and super sustainable. For locavore, specifically, and I guess just to keep our food going this early on, we really need to enable harvest on pretty much everything that we see, except for, I need to cancel this, on the plants that we're going to be saving for our nature reserve. So the plants that we want to... Actually, is this a better area for this? Yeah, probably. Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's another one here, too. Let me get this one out. Cancel, uproot. There we go. Let's go with this one. This is a little bit closer to the center. I guess we'll harvest these ones. But I do want to make sure that I'm harvesting everything that I can, so that we can make sure to keep our oxalite flowing, we can make sure to keep our food going. Since we can't plant any food, this is about the time I would want to naturally. Because we can't, we need to really branch out and start getting access to all the different plots of food here. But these ones, and especially this sureberry plant, well, I guess there's enough pike apple bushes here. How many tiles over is this from the center? Okay, that should be plenty for a nature reserve. So I think I can get this one uprooted. We can just harvest that. And these sureberry plants, by the way, I haven't been mentioning them very much. These are basically like the muck roots of the base game. So these are just like a one-time food. Once you dig it out, you get something like this, and it's just food for you to eat when you're ready. So, yeah, but Joshua, who's our rancher, is also going to double over as our farmer, who's going to be grabbing all these alveoveras, harvesting the pike apple bushes for food, all that fun stuff. We did get our oxalite sconces, so let's see what this does. This is marked as an oxygen source. Stores a small chunk of oxalite, which gradually releases it into the environment. I think this is so that you can put a handful of them in places that you might have to distribute the oxalite, rather than having it all gas off in one place. So let me place a few of them. Let's see how much it holds, but I'm a little bit nervous about this being kind of like a time sink. That's not going to really help us all that much. So I'm curious. Definitely the pressure is one of the issues with generating stuff from oxalite, but there are other ways that you could do this without needing to build specific buildings that only hold a little bit. My worry with holding a little bit is your duplicants will be running tiny amounts of oxalite there constantly, but let's see how it does before we judge it too much. I'm just going to keep our research spinning just so that we get everything that we need. Those mammoths, by the way, are going to be our target for ranching. These are going to eat these plume squash plants. These are going to require ethanol, but we can't really ranch these that well until we can either keep them in a natural place, like we'd have to ranch them near where these things are, because we can't plant anything until we finish up locavore. So we can't really run one of these ranches until we get a source, or rather until we're allowed to plant stuff. So our ranches for these are going to be a little weird. We're just going to have to confine them in spaces where they have enough access to these plants, and then ranch a handful of them as fast as we can just to get as many eggs out as possible. So I'll just start digging around to get access to these Bamis and these plume squash plants. We can also ranch these phlox things, critters, whatever. They will eat these pike apple bushes, which we will also have to keep wild. Here we go, the oxalite. This is actually awaiting a huge delivery. 240 kilograms of oxalite is kind of a lot. So that should last for a long time. Let's give these a chance and see how they do. It's basically just a way to have a place constantly requesting oxalite. So we'll see how they go. Alright, so yeah, we just need to start establishing all of our ranches, or at least areas for ranching. So I'm going to get into all these rooms. So we're going to have a bunch of natural ranches for all these different critters. We're about ready to take another duplicant in our printing pod. We also need to start assigning our skills. So I'm just going to assign skills for what makes sense for the type of duplicant that they are. Obviously, you want the researcher to go faster, you want the miner to go faster. That'll also give us access to dig out some of these granite tiles and get us further out on the map. So yeah, the plan here for right now is just to discover as many critters as I can, start planning out where our ranches are going to go, and get into that as soon as possible, because we're going to need to start chugging some barbecue, or whatever type of meat we're going to be eating. We'll see if we find any of the spigot seals as well. That's another critter that's been added for this, because that can add quite a bit of calories, assuming that the pemmican or whatever else that they can be used in can be used for this achievement. I'm pretty sure I saw a patch note about that, so I think that should be the case. So yeah, just going to continue to expand and continue to find places to plop ranches to ranch these critters. Okay, let's take another duplicant because it's time. We probably want another person that's going to be good at ranching, because ranching is going to be a big focus on what we do. So I've got my eye on Hassan so far, just because he enjoys ranching. Yeah, let's go ahead and take him. I'm going to go ahead and say... Did I call it ranching or rancher? I don't know. I don't think anybody cares except for me. So there we go. 5th duplicant. We really need to start shearing these Bamis as soon as possible, but we need our research to get up there. We need more skills to get into the right things that we need for ranching. So I think I'm going to try to keep these videos around 30 minutes each, just because it seems like a good cadence to keep things coming out while also not having too big of gaps between videos. So we're about at that right now, so I think I'm going to call it here. We need to build another room for Hassan, by the way. So I guess I'll just go ahead and kind of ghost that out really quick. There we go. Add him on. Yeah. Okay. So I think that'll be good for this episode. I'll be coming back and we'll be continuing on our path of getting the carnivore, locavore, super sustainable achievements, continuing to be forced to take duplicants and just try to stay alive the best we can in this new DLC. So thank you very much for watching. I will do my best to have the next video out tomorrow, and I will do my best to stay on a daily schedule until it becomes too much of a time gap, which tends to happen later in the game. So I'll see you back here for the next episode really soon.